The morning sun poured through the windows of Maplewood Diner like a blessing that had lost its way. Its golden warmth touched everything, the silver napkin holders, the smell of butter melting on pancakes, the laughter of regulars, but it could not reach the corner booth where a small girl sat, trying hard not to be seen. Her name was Clara. She was 16, quiet, and carried her courage in the wheels of her chair. Life had already taken much from her, her ability to walk, her sense of belonging, but it had not yet taken her will to hope. That morning, she had rolled herself into the diner, believing maybe, just maybe, today would be normal, but the world doesn't always offer mercy. 3 teenage boys sat across from her, their sneakers up on the booth, their laughter sharp as glass. They watched Clara the way wolves watch a fawn. And then one of them, with a grin too cruel for his young face, slapped the plate of pancakes from her lap. Syrup splattered across her legs, pieces of her breakfast sliding onto the tiled floor. The other boy shoved her wheelchair back as the third burst out laughing. The diner froze, forks stopped mid-air. Conversations died. Somewhere, a coffee cup shattered. Clara's lips trembled as she bent forward, trying to clean up the mess with shaking hands. No one moved to help her. No one said a word. The world can be loud with cruelty, but silent with kindness. That was the moment everything began to change. Clara's throat burned with humiliation. She wanted to disappear, to fold herself into the corner of the booth and vanish. Her parents always told her she was strong, that people's hearts could be kinder than their words, but at that moment, she didn't believe it. Every whisper, every stare, every hidden giggle since childhood had led her here, to this diner floor, sticky with syrup and shame. A single tear slipped down her cheek. Across the diner, a woman with 2 children looked away. A man in a business suit shook his head, muttering under his breath but did nothing. The waitress, frozen between tables, gripped her tray until her knuckles went white. Then, softly, a hand appeared in front of Clara. It was rough, scarred, older. A man, perhaps in his 50s, knelt down and picked up her plate. His gray hair glinted under the morning light. "Don't mind them," he whispered. "They're just boys who haven't learned what being human means." Clara nodded, her lip trembling. "Thank you," she whispered back. He smiled, but his eyes darted toward the bullies. Fear lingered there too, the kind that comes from knowing what happens when you stand up to cruelty. Still, he set the plate back on the table and patted her shoulder gently. That simple act, a stranger's kindness, was enough to remind her that not everyone was cruel. But the silence that followed hurt almost as much as the laughter before it. The boys went back to joking, pretending to be brave, louder now, as if noise could drown out guilt. Clara stared out the window, her reflection blurred by sunlight and tears. She didn't want revenge. She wanted to be seen, not for her wheelchair, not for her difference, but for her humanity. And then, just as her hope began to crumble, the air in the diner changed. At first, it was a distant growl. A low rumble that made the glasses on the tables tremble. Someone near the window leaned forward, squinting. What on earth? The rumble grew louder. A chorus of engines, powerful and unrelenting, rolled into the parking lot. One by one, motorcycles, dozens of them, lined up in front of the diner, sunlight flashing off chrome and steel. Every conversation died. Every breath seemed to pause. The insignia painted on their vests was unmistakable. Hell's Angels. The 3 bullies, moments ago brimming with arrogance, suddenly froze. Their laughter died mid-sentence. The diner's door swung open with a soft chime. But what entered wasn't softness, it was presence. A tall man stepped inside first. He wore black boots, a leather vest heavy with patches, and a beard streaked with gray. His eyes were cold steel, the kind that saw everything, the kind that had lived through storms most people couldn't imagine. Behind him came another man, then another, until the small diner seemed to shrink around them. Every step echoed against the tile. The leader's gaze swept the room, slow and deliberate. He took in the spilled pancakes, the trembling girl, the frightened waitress, and finally, the bullies. The silence that followed could have cracked glass. He said nothing at first. He just looked, long enough for the weight of his stare to sink into the boy's bones. And then he turned toward Clara, his expression changed. The hardness melted away, replaced by something gentler, something human. He crouched down beside her. "You okay, sweetheart?" he asked, his voice gravelly but soft. Clara nodded, though her voice failed her. Her eyes glistened with both fear and wonder. The man looked toward the bullies again. "You think it's funny?" he asked quietly. The question wasn't loud, but it thundered through the room. "You think it's brave to hurt someone who can't fight back?" The oldest bully tried to stammer a response. "We were just joking," the biker repeated, his tone turning razor sharp. "I don't see anyone laughing now." One of the bikers near the door crossed his arms. Another tilted his head, cracking his neck. The tension in the air was thick enough to choke on. The boys wilted. Their smirks dissolved into shame. One by one, they slid out of the booth and stumbled toward the door, their faces pale, eyes fixed on the floor. Outside, the line of motorcycles formed a wall of steel and thunder. Watching them leave, the diner exhaled, a collective sigh of relief, but the story didn't end there. The biker leader, whose name tag read Roar, turned back to Clara. He signaled the waitress. "Get her whatever she wants," he said, pulling out his wallet. "Pancakes, milkshake, the whole damn menu." The waitress blinked, startled. "Sir, that's not necessary." "It is," Roar interrupted. "Because she's family now." Then, in one of those moments that etched themselves into memory forever, he took off his leather vest, his badge of loyalty, of belonging, and draped it gently across Clara's shoulders. "Wear this," he said. "It means you've got people watching out for you. Always." Tears streamed down her face. The diner filled with a silence that wasn't heavy this time, it was reverent. The waitress pressed her hands to her heart. Someone started clapping softly. Others followed. In that small, sun-washed diner, something shifted. Strangers who had once looked away now stepped forward. The woman with 2 children hugged Clara. The man in the business suit apologized for not standing up sooner. And the older gentleman who had first helped her smiled through glassy eyes. Clara looked around the diner, the same place that had been her nightmare an hour ago, and saw it reborn. Where cruelty had once echoed, kindness now lived. Roar and his men stayed long enough for her new plate of pancakes to arrive. He raised his coffee cup toward her. "To the brave ones," he said. "The ones who keep rolling forward, no matter what." Clara lifted her glass of milkshake in return, her smile trembling but bright. "To the kind ones," she said softly. "Who make the world less cruel." When the bikers finally left, their engines roared like thunder, not in menace, but in protection. Every rumble felt like a promise. "You're not alone." That day, Clara learned something she'd never forget, that kindness can wear leather and ride a Harley, that courage can come wrapped in tattoos and steel, and that sometimes, angels have engines. That if this story touched your heart, share it. Let's remind the world that compassion isn't weakness, it's power, that standing up for someone isn't optional, it's human, because kindness, once set in motion, rides farther than cruelty ever could.